Our next story focuses on Russia's secret successes in Ukraine. While the world's attention remains fixated on Gaza, Russia seems to have launched a winter offensive in Ukraine, making notable gains. However, not all victories warrant a celebration, and this sentiment appears to prevail in Russia at the moment. They are capitalizing on the world's diverted attention to make strategic advances in key Ukrainian regions. Just take a look at the map of Ukraine right now, the red highlighted portion in Ukrainian territory under the control of Russian troops since the war began. And that double line, well, that marks their westward advances. Just in the last few days, Russian troops have managed to take control of all this Ukrainian territory. Reports say that in the past few days, Russia has gone from taking a defensive posture to making advances, active advances in key areas. Russia has gone on attack mode from the Donetsk front in the southeast of Ukraine and from the Kharkiv front in the northeast of Ukraine. Russian troops have not only managed to stop the Ukrainian summer offensive, but made major advances on the Ukrainian battlefield. Currently, fierce fighting is underway in Avdiivka, a Ukrainian-controlled municipality which stands at the gates of the city of Donetsk, which, remember, Russia illegally annexed. Here, Putin's troops are trying to lay siege to Ukrainian forces. Both sides are paying a bloody price for this coveted city, since fighting broke out here on October 10th. That's when Russian troops launched a new offensive. Avdiivka has strategic value. If Russia takes control of it, it would extend Russia's control of the entire region of Donbass. It would also push Ukrainian forces back from the threshold of Donetsk and open up the main rail and road routes for the Russians. And so, defending Avdiivka is Ukraine's main concern as of now. As was the case during Russia's previous winter offensive, Russian forces appear to be using human wave tactics. What does this mean? It is a strategy which entails troops storming head-on in repeated surges to overrun frontline positions. General Alexander Syrsky, the commander of Ukraine's ground forces and architect of last year's successful counteroffensive, has described the current operation or the current conditions as difficult and challenging. Moving up north, Russian forces have also stepped up attacks in Lyman and Kupiansk. Recently, Russian artillery has pounded both towns, reduced them to rubble. When Ukraine launched its counteroffensive campaign in June, the goal was to take back land lost to Russian forces. That has now become less and less realistic as the months have gone by. Despite being armed with Western weapons, tanks, vehicles, Ukraine's troops have not made any tangible results. They have faced formidable Russian defenses and could not break through. Ukraine's lack of progress on the battlefield has effectively stalled the counteroffensive. The next few weeks look very difficult for Ukraine as Russia goes on the offensive. It is looking like Ukraine has two major challenges at hand. One, they need to give rest to the units that have been fighting for months now and train new soldiers. Two, they need to keep up the pressure on Russian forces. Ukraine has to maintain pressure on the front line. Yes, Ukraine has been unable. Well, for now, it has been able to inflict heavy casualties on Russia, but these are sacrifices that Russia has already made at other points in the war. So how is Russia achieving this? According to the Institute for the Study of War, an American non-profit research group, the Russians continue to use Storm Z assault units. They are made up of prisoner recruits. You see, the Russians are preparing for meat assaults, a jargon for highly attritional infantry-led front assaults. It happens when Russian infantry forces attack without artillery support to support Ukrainian firing positions. The target? Avdiivka and surrounding areas. The goal? Number one, the Russians aim to capture the remainder of the Luhansk province, push its forces further westward, and encircle the Donetsk region. Number two, to capture the entire Donetsk region, the claimed territory of Russia's proxies in Donbass. In Donetsk, Ukrainian forces are continuing their offensive operations in the Bakhmut region. But Russian forces continue their ground attacks. And that's the situation on the battlefield as it stands today. As winter sets in and makes the ground difficult to tread, will Ukraine go another year without making any big advances? Will the stalemate on the battlefield remain? Will Ukraine ever be able to satisfy its appetite for more Western weaponry? Will the West be able to meet Ukraine's needs and demands till 2024? These are some complex questions, but the situation for Ukraine is also complex. Either way, the near future doesn't look good for Ukraine. Amid Russia's secret victories in the ongoing war, how long can Ukraine go on? We leave you with that question. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic triggered a sudden disruption of everyday life. While many things are back to the way they were before, one change has proven harder to reverse, and that is working from home. Companies across the world are now demanding the return of their employees. Many professionals who prefer working from home are now demanding a trade over the one thing that most employees hold dear, and that is their privacy. Professionals are demanding to work remotely in exchange for their privacy. Imagine that. Software company Qualtrics conducted a survey of about 37,000 workers across 32 countries and found that most of them are willing to let their employees go through their emails, their private chat messages, and even the virtual meeting transcripts, all in exchange for being permitted to work from home, to work remotely. As per the survey, a significant 62% of this group who had the freedom of working 3 days a week from home expressed their comfort with broad monitoring of digital communications. In contrast, only 49% of employees who always worked at the office were at ease with this level of surveillance. And for fully remote workers, the acceptance rate stood at 57%. However, having employers examine social media wasn't a winning idea for most people. The survey further assessed that even among these employees who permitted their companies to peep into their digital footprint, only about 4 in 10 workers were comfortable with it. So as companies increasingly embrace this passive listening to improve the employee experience, the survey results to underline the evolving dynamics of remote work and privacy in the workplace, as well as a changing expectation of employees in an increasingly online digital world. Comedy is a beautiful thing. In times of crisis, grief, it offers welcome respite. However, at times, jokes are taken too far, and the not-so-funny jokes come at a cost. Because more often than not, comedians almost never know where to draw the line on sensitive issues. Issues such as race, gender, and in this case, death. One comedian decided to joke about Friends star Matthew Perry's death. He called it funny. We certainly don't get the joke. Take a look.
It's been 2 days since the sudden death of Friends star Matthew Perry. His death shocked the world. While tributes from around the world poured in for the Emmy-nominated actor, what saddened his fans was the way he died alone. Matthew Perry, who played the role of Chandler Bing in Friends, died at the age of 54 on October 29th. He was found dead in a jacuzzi in his Los Angeles residence. He reportedly died due to drowning. However, amid the outpouring of grief and condolences, a single tweet making light of his death has triggered widespread outrage among fans worldwide. Kevin Brennan, a former SNL writer and comedian known for the MLC podcast, faced severe criticism for making insensitive remarks following the passing of the beloved star. Brennan posted a comment on X, mocking how the actor tragically passed away, eliciting strong disapproval from many. However, the comedian seemed to take pride in being called out for his offensive remarks. And in response to a tweet questioning why drowning in a hot tub was considered funny, he added, quote, "Because it's not very deep." While the joke may offend you, this is not the first time a comedian has mocked a situation or a person. Rather, some of the world's best-known comedians have built careers on being offensive. In recent years, more and more comedians have landed in hot water over provocative tweets. Take, for instance, the 2022 Chris Rock-Will Smith slapgate. What the world saw was how Chris Rock was slapped on live television in front of an audience and millions of people worldwide. But what was missed in the situation was a history, one of insecurities and emotional scars. Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, has been candid about her struggles with alopecia areata, an autoimmune disorder that causes the immune system to attack hair follicles in the head and face, leading to sudden hair loss. While making fun of somebody's ailment or past may be considered funny by some, what is offensive is making a joke about a person's death. Since 2020, the pandemic certainly put grief on the minds of artists and audiences. While the times were tough and somewhere each one of us lost someone to disease, today, joking about loss has become a common trope of comedy. But what crossed the line in the case of Matthew Perry was their insensitivity of the subject. This begs the question, why and when does mourning become funny? Take the case of the set performed by a stand-up comedian, Daniel Fernandez, whose unpleasant take on the dark times when people succumb to the disease due to lack of ICU beds made him say that people who voted for the ruling party should not demand hospital facilities. The viral clip garnered massive backlash. You see, Matthew Perry was a beloved friend. The grief is still raw. His loss feels personal for those who grew up with Chandler Bing's humor. So, no, the joke is not funny.